Okay, I just want to start with saying I'm so happy that you're sitting here across from me and that you were willing to do this.
Of course.
And that I love you so much.
Oh, I love you. You're like my little sister.
Same.
I tell everyone that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
feel like you're my sister.
Oh,
and
I
we
do.
met so randomly with
know.
the institutional work that we do. You do. And we. You more than me. She's like, we.
I'm passing the baton. I'm done. I'm out.
No. I don't want that baton, Aliya. I don't want that. No, but really, you impacted my life so much when I met you because I think I didn't look at the community-based institutional work as something that I was meant for or built for. And I know you have your own journey with it.
I do.
But you kind of reignited in me like what it means to be of service to the community. I just had to find my...
Because I'm on the tail end of that where I think I'm like, deuces.
You're like, peace out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what we both did for each other, I don't know if you would agree, is like figure out the balance.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
How much is too much? And like, where do we draw the line with our energy and effort to be of service, but not to like pour from an empty cup?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you're at. But you'll have to tell me. So anyway, super excited that you're here. Okay, so for this conversation, I wanted to share very recently, I was in Mexico for 10 days. I went to Tulum. Yes.
Nice.
I did this trauma-informed yoga teacher training.
Oh, wow.
That's got
super
certified.
cool.
So cool.
I'm so
cool.
happy to hear this.
Yeah.
Because I've been like visioning you and your movement kind of work. And then you're telling me this. Oh my God, that's so exciting.
It's so
aligned. I love it.
And the funny thing that I was going to bring up was like, I met these like amazing 7-8 women and we had a lot of like online meetings and then we did the 10 days in person. And I kid you not, Aliya, they called me Farah or Farha. I think it's Farha.
Oh.
They called me that since day one. And I think there's always this opportunity in the beginning where I could say like, no, it's Farah, you know?
Yeah.
But I felt like I missed my chance. Like time was just passing and passing.
Like, this is my new identity. It's like an identity.
You know what? Farha sounds fine. And so I let...
It's your Mexico name. It's your Mexico identity.
And then I let it pass. And then eventually on this trip, like 8th day, 10 days, okay? Somebody said it 3 times in a row. Like Farha. And I was just like, that's not my name. And they were like, mic drop. Like, what?
8 days? You let me call you this? Why'd you let me do this?
Straight up. Poor women. And I was just like, it's actually Farah. And they just started all like trying to pronounce it like really well. And they felt so bad. And then they told the entire group, and the entire group had this reaction where it was just like, oh, I wish I knew your name. I wish I was calling you your proper name. And I was like, you don't know what you don't know. I'm so sorry and whatnot. Anyway, my point being, like, I realized in this moment, because this was last week, that I do this a lot. Growing up, like, it was always Farrah Fawcett, right? And I was like, yeah, right? That's it. Like, totally. And I had to sit with that. I was like, why didn't I correct them? Why didn't I correct them when it first happened? Like, what was it that was so uncomfortable about correcting them? And when I sat with that long enough, first it's like there's what you could call like simply just an insecurity of not having to speak up and say like, hey, no, it's this, and like being uncomfortable. But even deeper, I was like, no, I've done this since day one.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I was like, you know, what feels really good is when I can just organically feel like I belong. You know, and not have to, and not have to like translate and like make them correct it to where I feel more accepted.
So you think you let them call you that because you were trying to just belong?
Just belong. Like, you got it. Like, you get me, and we get each other. So like, we're cool.
Yeah.
You know?
You can say my name whatever you want because we're doing this thing together.
We're doing this thing, and like, you got it. And so it was this like, this idea of belonging and being here, like I deserved it. And so when I look at it that way, I think about everything that we were going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Because it stems from kind of having to shrink myself a little bit into this mold, because there's this like insecurity around my culture and my name, the music I listen to, the things that I do that don't necessarily add up to the most relevant culture here and where we live. And it was really like a means of survival. you know, because if you don't belong in the community, you're like exiled, you're not a part of it. And so
bad things can happen.
And so you learn over a period of time through our parents, through culture, through society, that like if I just play it small, if I just fit in, if I get into that mold, then like I'll be safe, I'll be okay. So all that to say, I was like, this is timely. This is perfect. And I wanted to own up to that whole thing because those women were so nice to me and so kind. And I just felt like, man, I should have told you sooner.
I should have let you know who I was.
I should have let you know who I was because they were.
And it's a name. And it's weird, right? Like, it's just a name, but it's who I am.
It's who I am. And they were so open-hearted to know, you know, like they wanted to know who I really was. So all that to say, I'm happy to have Aliya Sharif here. And I'm going to say Aliya now that I've been educated. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you here because I think you're going to give a great anti-oppressive lens to the work we do, the space we're in. And kind of instead of asking questions like, what's wrong with so-and-so or what's wrong with me? It's like, well, what's shaping so-and-so? What are they going through? What systems are they a part of? How does this all interrelate? So I'm really happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah. I feel like this is probably very timely because I've been traveling a lot. And honestly, I've been traveling so much that I don't even think I've had true time to process. It's almost like this conversation is like letting me process a little bit.
I love that.
So let's see how it goes.
So this conversation is like a pause for you.
It is. It's giving me a lot of anxiety.
How can I support you in this anxiety moment?
I think we'll just have real conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Super real, super rooted, super authentic, which you are.
Yes.
That's what I know you to be. Do you want to start by just introducing yourself as best as it feels for you?
Yeah. So, Aliya.
Tell them. Right? Tell them. Wait, tell us the story too. Aliya versus Aliya.
Right. It's Aliya versus Aliya. So I say all my brown friends, right? That's the best way I can say it. Say Aliya. I've been called Aliya my whole life. I'm cool with it. Like you could go between Aliya and Aliya and I would literally like not know. Right. But it's always like for me, if anyone who's not brown calls me Aliya, I'm like, what? That's weird. Like, but I know my brown, like, it's just so innate. Yeah. But my mom says Aliya. And then there was Aliya, the singer. So there's always like Aliya. Totally. Like, it's just this interesting
it's kind of like
thing.
the Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, so Aliya, because that's what my mom says is what I go
and that's
by.
what you prefer.
So yeah, I do like Aliya.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Why do you think you didn't correct anyone around you either?
I don't know. I was little. It's brown.
It's brown.
Like
it's gone on for years and decades.
Exactly. Yeah, literally decades. Like it is what it is. Now there are like newer people who will ask like, how do you like newer? When I say newer, like newer people in my life, and honestly like younger, like. All people are like, you, Aliya. I
don't know what you're bother.
Who cares? Yeah, exactly. I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to tell you your name.
Exactly. So brown.
Okay, so a little bit about just like the work you do in the space. Right? I know you have your own private practice.
I do. So I have my own private practice, but I will say like the one thing I tell even people who come into my practice is I'm not a private practice person. I got into private practice out of need and necessity because my child had health needs and I needed to be in a situation that offered flexibility, and traditional work doesn't do that.
Yep.
But I'm a nonprofit girl at heart. I'm a community mental health girl at heart. That is who I am. That is who I will always be. Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm finding myself like really pulled back to that world. I don't know what it means. I don't think I'm going back to like a nonprofit. Like I don't think I could do that. Yeah. But I find my heart is like yearning. So like a deep yearning for that community type of work.
Oof, okay.
Even though I don't want to do institutional work. Is that funny? It's really weird.
Well, different institutions are different.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, my own institution. I want to be the institution. No, I don't. That's weird.
So right now, 100% of your time is your practice, or do you dabble in other things?
Right now it is my practice, and then I'm still doing a lot of volunteer work, and so I've been traveling with that a good amount.
Yeah, you've been going to really cool places.
Yeah, I feel really blessed. It's been spiritual and emotional on the journey to travel as well.
How so? How so spiritual?
Gosh, such a good question. There's something about the places that I've been going. So interestingly, I guess part of the story is I went to Belgium, and my mom studied in Brussels.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, going, even though I've been to Brussels before, like, it wasn't my first time, but something about going for the work that I was doing felt so, like, I can't describe it, but it was like, I could feel it in me. And it was, like, shifting and transforming. And I, like, was starting where my mom went to school, right? And her journey there was not an easy journey at all. Like, she left because war broke out in the country that she's from. And so they sent her away to protect her. And so that nothing would happen to her. And so she all of a sudden, and this is back in like the 60s. So like you just leave, there's no cell phone, there's no admission to a college. You literally go there and figure it out.
Wow.
So she had to figure out where to go to school. Her cousins were supposedly already there. She was not intending to go, and she had to figure it out.
Wow. That must have been so tough.
Yeah, right. And I think about her, and then I was meeting all these people from different parts of the world, like Syria, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Rwanda, Uganda, and they're telling their stories. Yeah. And something about that was just powerful. Yeah. So powerful. And to be surrounded by people who are leaders in a community telling their stories and being vulnerable and allowing me to witness that vulnerability. So it started with Brussels. And then went to Germany, and then I went to Congo, which is where my mom is from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so...
Look at you, just all over. I know. And so meaningful.
Yeah, and so going to Congo was, I'm going to start crying. I honestly started crying on the plane as soon as I descended, like on the descent.
Have you been to Congo before? Okay, this is your first time ever.
Yeah, it was my first time. And interestingly, on the plane, on the way there to the airport, I started asking my parents more questions, and I learned so much about them and honestly about myself.
Yes.
Like I understood myself in ways that I had never thought I could. So much about me made sense. Like things I was like, why am I like this?
Right.
But it learned that it was like maybe something that was like passed down in my like genes and my blood.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And that was like really interesting too.
So powerful. Sounds like it's such an aligned experience for you right now. Yeah. And I think it speaks so well to the fact that we don't look at individuals just as an individual. It's all the systems they touch, and not just our parents or the schools we go to, but the time and environment of the world at the time that they were there, or the experiences they had, like you just talked about your mom and the war times that she was in, and that all of it has like a ripple impact into how we show up as individuals. And rarely do we peel back like that onion and that layer to understand it. And it sounds like that's what you've been gifted in these experiences.
Yeah, I have been. Yeah. I have been gifted that. And next week I'm going to Tanzania, which is where my dad's from. So it's like interesting to start, like go to where my mom's from, and then Mother's Day, like May is Mother's Day month. I went to where my mom is from, and June is Father's Day month.
Now you're going there.
I'm actually not going to be with my dad on Father's Day. I'm going to be in his home country.
Crazy. And it's like none of this is planned. This is just organically happening.
The universe is doing its thing. The universe is universing, and I don't know what it's trying to do to me. And I'm trying to understand it.
Receive, babe. Receive.
Oh, this is hard.
This is hard. It is. Okay. So my first question to you, I think, is really along these lines, because you're both a therapist, and what you're talking about is looking at people and systems that impact them and how they show up. How do you feel like, I guess today in the world of Western therapy, that anti-oppressive lens is missing?
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you think we can start to shift and change that? So, like, what have you seen in your work?
Yeah. So for me, Western therapy honestly almost never fit. Like, I went into it being like, something's off.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a professor right off the bat who was like a narrative therapist. So it was more postmodern from the beginning. Nice. And that felt right for me. And then I luckily did a postdoc my pre-doc internship here in Dallas, ironically. I always say never mess with a mother's prayer, because my mom prayed for something.
She was like, you better stay here. And you did.
Come, like, here, literally here for a year. Like, I got matched to the only place in Dallas. Yeah. The only place. Like, great, of course. But I loved it. I did. A Momentous Institute now. They operate from, like, narrative therapy and postmodern
So this is you as a client, or were you working as a therapist?
This is as a therapist.
Okay.
And so, like, for me, it was more, I was lucky. And I guess, again, for me, the universe was doing its thing and putting me in places where I was finding authenticity, right? And so for me, that's what it was. It was that Western therapies weren't authentic to me and they didn't fit me. And then it also just like started off for me with more like learning about social justice therapy, which is where I think also grounded in that ideology and that sense of, I think finally being around people who could like say the words that I had in the back of my mind, but felt I couldn't say out loud, especially living in Texas, being a brown girl in Texas.
Can you give an example just to like put some color on that?
Yeah. So for me, something small. Okay. Like here's the example that I would give. Like, I remember being very called out because as little kids, we used to be like, that's so gay.
Yes.
Right?
Always.
Like that was like a thing to say.
Yes.
And then I'm in my 20s still making comments like that.
Yeah.
And like, why are we making comments like that?
Right.
That's not appropriate.
Right.
Right? Like that's so unhealthy. But living in the environment I was living in, it was normed. It was okay to say things like that. Right? But that is...
Yeah. And then you question yourself, what does that mean? And what are you implying about gay, and what does gay mean to you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was a good place where I could say, oh, these are actually like we've termed statements and made them part of our norm and made them part of our life, and they're not okay. So the other thing was I, as a little girl growing up in our community, I'm clearly dark skinned, and now I'm cool with that, but I was not okay with being dark skinned growing up. And I was called Aliya.
Wow. Wow. Oh
Right?
my gosh. Not the rhyme with the name.
Right?
Goodness.
Why? And so explanatory comma, Kalia means the black girl, right?
Right. It's honestly still in the music today.
Right,
of
exactly.
the culture. Yeah.
And that's, again, considered not good and not okay to be darker, to all of those things. I didn't go in the sun for 6 years.
Wow.
I love swimming. I love being at the beach. I did everything I possibly could
to avoid being outdoors because you were embarrassed about your skin.
Yeah, I didn't want to get dark. I didn't want to get darker. So I avoided it at all costs. And then I was like, wait. So in California, I was like, I'm going to the beach. I'm going out. Let me get dark. Like, I'm good with this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I learned to love my skin. I learned to love me. I learned to find my voice in these ways that were like, these are actually like those hurts and those pains that no one knew all those years. Like mothers, I used to love to dance. And there would be mothers who would be like, oh, you can't put her in the middle because she's too dark. She's not pretty enough. And so my darkness didn't make me pretty. And I learned to be like, forget that. I am gorgeous. I am great. My skin is good.
Yes.
And I have the words and the tools to speak up against things that are not okay to say. And I could stand with them fiercely. And I think that is what I learned through the therapies, but also being in an environment that like spoke about these things. So like gave me words, it gave me the pushback, it challenged me. Like I was challenged a good deal. Like there were days I was crying, like why? Why? You know, like, right, like if you say something and you hear it and you're like, oh wow, I didn't even realize I'd been doing that for so long.
Right.
There is pain in that and you have to acknowledge it. But then you grow, hopefully you grow from it versus getting stuck in like, how dare you challenge me?
Right.
It was moving to a really
and I
different
think
place.
all those parts of the journey are important, right? Like there's going to be a part where you open your eyes to what you're doing and how you're contributing and then to what's happened to you. And that might produce a lot of anger and resentment towards yourself and others in the world. And that might be just a part of the journey to get to a place where you are saying you can fiercely stand behind what you feel. I think what you're saying is like naming the things you were feeling, naming what was going on around you and questioning it was that first part of reclaiming.
Yes, definitely. It was a lot of raw, I will say rawness, because you had to open up and be like, oh crap, there's a lot of like stuff that's not okay in here and accept that and then name it.
And then figure out what you want.
For a while.
So that journey that you had as like an individual, how do you bring that into your therapy spaces and your private practice?
Yeah. So for me, it's the way that I think and the way that I exist in therapy. So, and I'm going to take it from like really concrete to maybe more like abstract. So concretely, the way I dress.
Yes.
Right? Like my hair is the way it is. It is this is my curly hair. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm
Looks
learning
lovely.
about it. Thank you. But I'm learning because I had very straight hair growing up, and all of a sudden it's curly.
Yeah.
So it's wearing my hair curly. It's wearing it as me. It's not wearing Western ideologies of what it means to be professional. Like sometimes I'm wearing sweatpants. Sometimes I'm wearing workout clothes, right?
Yes.
And sometimes I'm dressed up.
Yes.
It might depend on how I'm feeling and how I wake up and what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm not subscribing to Western ideology on professionalism.
Right. You're embodying the fact that you could be whoever you want to be and however you want to be without trying to fit a certain category.
And so, like, because I'm authentic, I think it allows my clients to show up authentically.
Yes.
Right? Like, they can, whether they want to come in their workout clothes or they want to come in their professional clothes, where they want to wear a full face of makeup or not. Like, I am okay with however you want to show up, but I'm going to show up what feels right for me. And so that's how, like, recently I've decided I'm in a makeup mode, but it's because I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's not because life has told me I need to wear makeup. It's like, I want to play a little bit.
Yes.
I've learned, like, makeup is an art. So I appreciate it as an art. So now I'm willing to, like, play with it. But before, it felt like a thing I had to do to fit in. I wasn't there for that.
Not there for that.
No.
Yeah.
So now I'm playing with it because it's an art and I love it and I want to I want to play with creativity, and so therefore I'm willing to wear makeup, right? So that might show up too.
Sure.
And then so those are the concrete, but abstractly, it's what I'm thinking about. So if a client is coming in and we're talking about the work environment, right? Well, if I have a Black woman who's coming into work, and there's a white woman who's degrading her and speaking to her condescendingly, I'm going to understand the potential racial dynamics there, right? And I'm going to be thinking from that lens. I'm going to be understanding systemic processes of just like what usually happens in the work environment. And it's very corporate, and corporate is white male.
Sure. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It is meant for a white men's system.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking about that system. I'm thinking about their families. I'm thinking about the generations that came before them. I'm thinking about their friendships, right? Like, so when I'm thinking, it's not the client that's in the room.
Sure.
It's all these other pieces that are in the room. And that's how my mind just thinks.
Right. So you basically are obviously talking to that individual, but when you're looking at them, you see all the systems at play. So you're able to zoom out and really understand that it might be more than just this person. Where it's rooting from might be more than just what this person is feeling and thinking in this incident, but it could be a factor of all these other systems at play. So that informs what I'm hearing you say is like how you would then go about therapy and what questions you would ask and what space you would hold.
Exactly. And I think sometimes it's not even questions I ask, it's what you went back to earlier, naming it. So being able to name for some of my clients, you're responding to a form of oppression.
Yes.
You're responding to racism. So your feeling that you're having is not a mental health issue. It's not mental illness.
Right.
It is literally like
a valid issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people don't learn that. They learn like, oh, I'm having anxiety. I'm like, no, right? Like
you're having a normal reaction to an unnormal situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then my clients will be like, oh, you get it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, like, no, you're not, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
And most of my clients, honestly, there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot wrong. Most of us, there's not actually a lot wrong with us. Like the systems are pretty messed up.
Totally. I mean, I'd argue that this language around something being wrong with someone is really taking us away from the root of anything, right?
The pathology mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Very Western.
Very Western. Instead of asking like what has to be true to have got you into this place you are at or have built these experiences that you're having.
Exactly.
Versus like an inherent flaw about you as a human being.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. We're in a relation all the time. And so it's about like understanding that relation, whether it's like historical and systemic and contextual or immediate.
Yeah. And what I love about this, I don't know if you've heard about IFS, but we talk a lot about it on the podcast. And it already uses like the modality talks about a person as a system within themselves. So operating from this like multiplicity of different parts of us. Like I have a part of me that does this and a part of me that does that. But it already looks at people as a system. And this is just taking that context a lot wider. My question to you next, I guess, is like, there are things that are strictly like very Western okay, but then not okay in like marginalized community. For example, resting, like this concept of like, I can rest. I was just talking to like a client.
Just listen to a podcast on this.
Yeah. I was just talking to a client who was just like feeling guilty about resting, and then noticing through being curious and holding that inquiry for themselves that, you know, it's been a lifelong thing of I have to go and do and produce and be successful and get this done so I get this reward so I'm okay. And I get so stressed that I don't rest, and eventually I get sick, and like it hits me physically, it hits me in different ways. So really grappling around with what is the balance between like doing and being, and where did I learn that in order to be enough or to be good, that I have to have this much output in my life. I think that one is common across the board. And then my second favorite one to dabble into is boundaries that are different between the Western culture. And in our culture, boundaries are a little bit harder to put in place and to enforce in such a clean-cut way. Like the relationship structures at play with the brown community or South Asian community is a lot more enmeshed than the Western society, right? And so to some degree, it might not be the healthiest per se, but how do you honor both the cultural roots of that kind of closeness and also the need for individual like freedom?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna challenge the thought in a different way and say like, I think the problem is not like even the words we use, enmeshed, right? Like that is a Western ideology.
It is. That's true.
Right.
Yep.
This idea of individualism. I remember doing a presentation for a colleague. She was a teacher, I want to say in Thailand.
Okay.
And I remember when she prepped me, she's like, there is no such thing as I. There's no word for I. Right? And I was like, oh, individual. Yeah. So like because we live in the West, have this idea of individualism and this right to individualism. Sure. And then these boundaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is the right way to do it. So my challenge is, well, why is that right? Who says that's the way it has to be?
So true.
Who says that's even healthy? Why is that healthy?
Right.
Right? Like, I don't know that it is.
That's
and
so
I don't
fair.
know that I buy into it. I think each person gets to decide that. So when I'm coming into therapy or when I'm talking to clients, like, no, I don't have this idea that there is a sense of individualism. You get to decide that. You get to like decide how much collective and how much individual. I actually think what Western world potentially gets wrong is we got to set boundaries.
Right.
What for? So you want to be alone in the world? Like, who wants to be alone in the world? We're all like, we're talking about a loneliness epidemic, and it's like, well, where do you think the epidemic started? Because I would have boundaries. Like,
Stop.
I'm sorry,
It's
I
so
like
funny,
but like I struggle with that.
Totally.
And I mean, I know I'm making fun, and do I agree? Yes, there is. Like, there is.
I was just gonna ask. Like, obviously, there's a point where if you're being, I guess, your identity's being consumed by a person or a situation or a thing, like to the point where it's harmful.
100% agree, right? Like there are the extremes. There's extremes in both ends, right? Yep. Like maybe you're saying you're being consumed and then you're so individualistic that you're lonely.
You're isolated. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
So there's these extremes, but the reality is most of us are in the middle, and then based on culture, it's somewhere in between. Yeah. And there's so many cultures, right? Like let's look at this. It's not just South Asian culture. Sure. Generally speaking, Asian cultures, many African cultures, right? African, big continent here. Yep. Maybe the European cultures, but even within Europe, if you're looking at Eastern versus Western Europe, right? Like there might be Eastern Europe that is a little bit more collective. Yeah. So this idea of individualism is I believe, a much more deep Western concept and thought. Yeah. Yes, when we're looking, and when you think about it in psychology and therapy and all these things, like the extremes are where we're going to dabble because we want to make sure that people aren't in extremes and in the middle. Sure. So I don't really think about, like when someone comes in and they're like, I have a codependent relationship, I actually question that right off the bat. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, explain to me what you think codependency is. Like. Yeah. And I'm like, it sounds like you're in a relationship.
I love this so much.
It bothers me. It bothers me when we use sometimes words so loosely, and I see them used loosely in like outside world, right? Like codependent and enmeshed and this and that. Right. I'm like, who gets to decide that? Even that is like, who decides what codependency is? Who's deciding what enmeshment is? Yeah. Do you feel right with it? Right. Like, and I even like co-sleeping. Let's take co-sleeping. Yeah. Right. co-sleeping in Western world is like the most, that irks me when people get mad about co-sleeping.
Yeah.
So you want to, like, as adults, we want to sleep with people. We get married and sleep with people our whole lives, and you're mad at a little human for like co-sleeping?
Yeah.
For wanting human connection?
Totally. Yeah.
We have generations, ancestors, thousands of years of people have co-slept and been okay. Right? Like, who are we to say, well, let's go with the Ferber method now?
Yeah, that's so
okay,
true.
if it works for you, good, it works for you, but that doesn't mean it's the right way.
And
I will say, like, this is where I have to own up and take accountability. Before I was a parent, I was teaching that, like, you gotta separate method. Like, I was teaching it. I was doing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was absolutely wrong for doing that. And I feel so bad. And if I could go to all the parents that I said that to, I am so sorry. Like, I deeply apologize for doing that, because I think what we have to realize is parents get to decide what's right for them.
Yeah.
Of course, there's extreme, there's rights and wrongs. I'm not saying those aren't true.
Yeah.
But if co-sleeping works for you, I co-slept. Until this day, my child is 8, and sometimes he asks me to sleep in his room. I will be there, because one day he's not going to want that.
So true.
You know, like, he woke up the other day, put his arm around me, and I was like, oh my God, I love this kid so much.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he loves me, and he's showing me love, and he needs a moment, and he's telling me he needs to connect. And I'm honoring that need to connect. Right? I'm teaching him I'm safe, I'm dependable, I'm there.
Yes. Yes. I
all
love
of those
this.
things that we know, again, in psychology, from that lens,
Critical
are needed.
needs. Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm meeting some of his needs. I'm lucky enough that my child can express to me, can you come sleep with me tonight? You've been working late. You've been traveling a lot. I just need you to come sleep in my room tonight. So when you get home, give me a kiss. Give me a kiss and come sleep next to me. How am I not going to honor that as a parent? I'm going to tell you that's enmeshed? No. Go sleep with your child.
No, thank you. No, I love this, because I think you're highlighting two important things. One, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
And, like, we can't keep doing that where we define this one thing in one part of the world and then we try to apply it across the board. And I love that you're highlighting that, because we do treat, you know, some modalities in therapy as like, okay, I'm going to use this particular method on this particular person, and that's going to rectify whatever situation. And absent-minded of anything that they feel or their culture resonates with. And then same with, like, the medical model, right? Like, if somebody's hurt, you apply one specific procedure to fix that. Right. And so I think what you're describing is so eloquent, because one, it makes you think, like, what are the words I'm using and what am I subscribing to? Yeah. And then I think on the second hand, what I absolutely love about what you said is, like, bringing it back home. Like, and what I mean is, like, if we all start to subscribe to these ideas and thoughts that are given to us, we lose our own sense of, like, what sits good with me? What do what feels right for me in my body, with my child, with my relationships, right? Like, where is my line? Like, if I can't listen to that because I'm subscribing to this definition, I'm distancing myself from myself. So what you're talking about is, like, really creating a home within and being attuned to that to make those decisions for yourself, which is so refreshing.
Yes, right. And I think you're exactly right. Like, for me, it's about that. What did you learn in your family that you want to keep?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what doesn't feel right? And that's okay, right? Like, it's okay. Doesn't mean that your family was wrong. Doesn't mean it worked for this, it worked for that. You might end up teaching your child something that you learned from your parents that works for your child but didn't work for you. And that's okay.
Yes.
Right? I think it is about keeping what works, but still some truth. And I think, again, I'm going to speak from, like, South Asian brown lens, like, where there is more collectivism. And I'm really good with that. I feel very comfortable in, like, collectivist culture. I tend to not like individualistic culture. Like, it doesn't work well for me. Which is why a lot of my life is shaped the way my life is.
I was just going to say, I was thinking about, as you're saying that, I was like, you know, now that you say that the way you live and the shape that you have of your home and your son and your parents, it really represents collectivism's components. I knew very early on in my life that being with my parents into their older adult age was extraordinarily important for me. And I also understand, like, what I have seen is that
when we are not aware that's what we want and we feel torn, right? Like maybe you feel torn between I want to live on my own but I want to take care of my parents, right? And so then that tension leads to more like, I think where the unhealthy and potentially toxic comes in.
Totally. That's suffering, right? Like
Exactly.
it's really the resistance between the two parts of you that want different things.
Yeah. And so I lived my life. I did the things I wanted to do and I was really happy. And once I felt like I did those things, I came back home. And I said, okay, now, and I want to come home in a way that feels good for my parents and me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I took the time to come home before there's a crisis, before things went bad, so that we could all get used to each other. So if there is a crisis, we can handle it better.
I love that.
Right. And so like I allowed both parts of myself to exist, which is that individualistic kind of Western side, because I did grow up here in America and so I have
and you honored your needs to explore, to have freedom, to move about the world in the way you want without that kind of hanging with you.
Yeah.
And then you came back.
Yeah. And I'm happy with that. Yeah. And it doesn't feel burdening. It doesn't feel like, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you live with your parents. Like, I love it. I get to see the relationship my parents have with my child.
Yeah.
It is one of the most beautiful relationships. My mom and my son are like best friends. They fight like best friends and they like love each other like best friends.
Yeah. And I was going to say, you give your son so much opportunity to build these different types of relationships and that like doubles or triples the love that that son receives and the attunement that they have with from different caregivers in a home. And I think it's, you know, when we talk about like ancient cultures and wisdom, they talk about growing a child takes a village. Like you typically do have a community supporting you and helping you. And to your point, like if we stick to one individualistic society and the mindset there could be like, you're supposed to do this on your own. Like you should get it together, get a nanny, move on, like let's go, right?
We pay for I was just listening to something, we pay for the village.
Yes, we pay for the village.
We pay for them to go to daycare. We pay for what we used to have built in. Like,
literally,
what did we lose here? A lot of money is what we lost.
Money and what you're describing, which is these opportunities of love and connection. Yeah, and relationships. Because now that you say that, I grew up with my grandparents around here and there, and those were some of my best memories. You know, when you had this like lovely human being who just has unconditional love for you and teaches you things that it's a completely different dynamic than you would have with your primary caregiver. Yeah,
you know what I think about when you were saying that, because I didn't get to grow up with my grandparents. Like both, it's really interesting. Both sets of my cousins grew up with their grandparents, and I was the only one who didn't. So I had this longing, and so I think part of it is like, I mean, probably fulfilling my own like longing that I had as a child and giving it to my child for like grandparents, and so he has his. But it also made me think of, you know, like you're right, grandparents also offer something different, and I don't know if you remember, but there was like maybe a year or so ago, there was like a grandfather who was holding his daughter who had died in Palestine, and he said, the soul of my soul.
The soul of my soul.
Right? Like, so as grandparents, like they're looking at the soul of their soul, right? To think about like, and I think about that from like a both spiritual and like lens of like, as a mother, I grow my child. So that soul is of like, that is of my soul. But for a grandparent, that is, I am their soul, and this is the soul of that.
100%.
So the soul of my soul is like
so powerful. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know. It just like, my next tattoo might be the soul of my soul. All my tattoos are in Arabic, ironically.
Oh, really?
So I'm like, oh, how beautiful. That's like perfect. Just add one more.
Yeah, I think I have one in Arabic right behind my shoulder. It says, "So remember me, I will remember you." It's lovely. But I love this. I love this entire conversation. I could keep going forever. I know. The one part I think I asked you about and I want to circle back to is the concept of rest. And I think I asked you that really intentionally because I know you really well. And I know that it's been a struggle. Yeah. And I know that you've seen how not resting can cultivate different types of consequences to our health. Yeah. So I would love to hear kind of how you think about that.
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up because I literally was listening to a podcast yesterday about like rest and being and manifestation. Oh, nice. It's also been a season of my life right now where I think, as you know, like health reasons, I needed to learn to rest last year. And I'm learning to rest not because I'm ill right now. I'm learning to rest and be because it's what we should do. I think what's hard, so this is where I'll bring in both Western and Eastern lenses, right? Like as a South Asian woman, rest? Are you kidding me? Girl, please. Like, what? You know, like we learn to do, we learn that is our value, is in how much we have done. Like, what did I earn? What did I do? Where's my education? Where are all my accolades, right? Like, pack them on, bring them higher and better.
Yes. It's like we define our worth and our identity off of the accolades.
100%. And then tap into Western culture, which is a very hustle culture, right? Like, so those two combined are a recipe for disaster for a South Asian woman.
Yes.
Like, the worst kind, right? Like, I gotta meet all the, and I will say I'm blessed with parents who like didn't necessarily teach me that is what I should do, but like that's what they did and that's what they modeled. So like the model is to do, exactly. Right? And my dad is 82 and just going to retire in September. Like, so this is what I'm saying, like work until the bitter end, right? Like constantly working, constantly doing.
Yeah. It's like when you feel like it's too much, that's when you
add
push
on
harder.
more.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done my whole life until I collapsed, right? And like, it was a literal collapse. Like, I couldn't walk or talk and breathe and I had to like stop. Yeah. And I think that's what most people do. And so that pairing of South Asian culture and Western culture that teaches us, both cultures teach us to go. And then being a South Asian person in a Western culture, like, you need to perform at the highest. And there's also systems behind that too, right? So like South Asian individuals were brought to this country to prove to other immigrants, or not even to other immigrants, to also specifically that Black people weren't good enough and that we were because of how well we were doing. So we're like, right, when we talk about systems and understanding that, right, when that 1960, I think it's 1964, like civil rights, right, like during the civil rights movement, and when immigration came in for South Asian people, we were brought here to show other people that this is how you should be, and this is good. And so then we kept performing in that way.
Right.
And that's embodied in us. That's in that when you talk about like legacy burdens, yes, that's burden, but it's also epigenetics. It's in our, it becomes part of our genetic DNA and how we move. There's
our nervous system, truly.
Exactly.
Like, it's wired to be on and performing all the time.
100%. Yeah. Now, if we take that back ancestrally, now let's go back ancestrally in a different way. There's also like, and I don't know what the right term would be, but like you think about like legacy burdens, but there's also like legacy, I guess maybe truths and beauties, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
like our ancestors. Right. There's also this part of us that like has where our ancestors did sit still.
Yeah.
Yoga is not this like Western ideology of like, let's go stretch and like be these beautiful lengthy women who are skinny and fit into these great like things.
It's sold so wrong. Yeah.
No, it is actually about finding your stillness and oneness. It is sitting in a posture to feel and embody and to know how you are, to maybe feel the pain, to understand where there's resistance, to know what needs to be released, right? Like,
and actually, when you say that, now that I just did the whole entire training, yoga in its early forms had nothing to do with the mat. It was not physical. It was actually just wisdom and like shared insights. And it became over time something that people did to prep for meditation and to like meet their discomfort and meet their stillness. So that's so true.
Exactly. So we go back to that. We go back to like what we know ancestrally is that there was stillness.
Yeah.
And stillness was healing. But stillness also allowed for unconscious to become conscious.
Yeah.
Right?
So true.
Which is also, so when we come back to like the psychology and the spirituality of it, it's all so tied together in that these practices have become capitalistic in nature, Western in nature. Right, and who is even represented in the picture looks a certain way, right? Versus we can all just be who we are, and like we all deserve rest. It is actually an important part of our being, and the way that we will get to more fulfillment, more purpose, more wherever you're. Whatever this, and I say whatever this world is to offer us, whatever our destinies are to be fulfilled, is by offering ourselves stillness.
Love that.
I think I just answered something for myself.
Yeah, that's the best kind of answer when it hits something home.
Right? I've been struggling these past, but like, I think I've been on a journey of like being, and that's not something I'm used to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I had my doctorate before I was 30.
Girl, yes, you've been
Like,
going since
I had a kid on my own. Like I have been moving and going and reaching, and I think I'm finally learning that I deserve love. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be and that is a gift. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the first thing I noticed about you when I met you is I told you I would be like, girl, like slow down, say no, pause.
You know what? For the first time in my life, I'm about to say no, and I've never said no.
I have to clap to this.
Yeah. It's like I'm having a lot of anxiety about it.
Yeah.
But I'm getting to the place where I'm realizing I'm finally okay with saying no. And it doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I didn't do something. It means that I'm giving not only to myself, but I'm giving to the generations that come next.
Yes. So true.
Like,
and to your son. I mean,
100%.
You're going to model what you would want for him to embody.
I think his achievements will be greater and he will fulfill his destiny even better because I can allow myself to be still and I will understand what is needed in that stillness. I will be a better mother. I will be a better friend. I will be a better everything because I allow that to exist.
I love that.
Yeah.
And also I think you're great just as you are.
Thanks. I'm learning.
Yeah. Okay. So just to end on two things. One, is there anything you would tell people that are listening who maybe are in therapy and they feel unseen? And, maybe they could just switch their therapist. But, what would you say for them to shop around to look for if they want to be, I guess, more seen fully within the systems that they interact with and not just as individuals so that these things could be named, these things could be felt and healed from, really?
Yeah. I think I'm lucky in private practice. For some reason, I'm attracting.
You're attracting.
Yeah, I'm attracting.
People.
Yeah, 100%.
Love that.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that at all. I grew up in Texas. I was not expecting that.
So true,
But I will say, I think it's good to be bold. I have people who do ask me questions, and I think it's okay to say, like, people will ask me, what is my ethnicity? What is my background? What is my religion? Where do I stand politically? I have very clearly had people say, where do you stand politically?
Same.
Because if you are not, then I will not come to you. And I'm like, 100%. I also don't want you to come to me if you don't stand. Like, I'm not to be disrespectful. Like, I can handle people who have different political beliefs, but there are certain things that are hard lines for me, and I cannot be in certain environments. It's not authentic. It's not me. I will not put myself in a position where I am visibly upset and angry at certain points. So ask the questions about politics. Your therapist should be political. I think that's like anti-oppressive therapy is therapy is political. 100%.
Yeah.
You can ask about politics, right? Like, why is it, sorry, I have to say the side
Go
note.
ahead.
Why is it okay for people to be like in group chat, like in Facebook groups or whatever, they'll be like, oh, I need them to be a white Christian male. But you could, like, all of a sudden it's wrong if they say, why can't they be like Muslim female?
Right. Honestly, it is. Like, I've heard people dance around it for some reason. Like, they have to say something like just somebody who is also like me. Yeah. Right? Like, versus just outright saying what they're looking for.
100%. Yeah. So I think it's fair for you to ask those questions. I think it's fair for you to say this person, like social justice therapy actually says, like, the person looks like you. That's okay.
Totally.
Because sometimes what's hard is you don't want to do the explanatory comma in therapy. That's okay. Don't do the explanatory comma. Find someone who can. Now, if for some reason you can't find someone who looks like you or understands your culture, then I think it's good for you to push and say, are you going to do research on this? Are you going to go find out? Right? Like, am I going to have to explain everything? Because I don't think it's fair for a client to explain. And I think as therapists, we have to have cultural humility and we need to go and learn. So if I have a client from a different country, a different religion, it's my responsibility to learn.
100%.
Right? And so I think it's as clients, people need ask the questions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Be bold. I like that you said that.
Yeah.
That sounds like it sums it up. Be bold and ask for what you need. And I know that can be hard.
Ask for representation of who you are. And I think you're right. We're scared to be like, well, I actually want, like, I have my own therapist right now, and I love her because, you know what, she lived in San Francisco. She is also an immigrant, and she also, like, is a daughter and a female. She gets me. I don't have to explain certain things. I don't want to. My therapy is richer. For the first time in my entire life, I have good therapy.
Yes.
Because she gets me.
Totally. Yeah. And you shouldn't have to translate your entire existence and experience. 100%. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then for fun, I'm going to ask you 3 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Just quick answers.
Okay.
Okay. This is for my fun. Okay. 1, what's the funniest advice you've ever gotten about mental health?
Gosh, I think it's the one that I like laugh out, like when I see, maybe it's not given to me directly,
Sure.
but like what I see on like social media is like, read a book, drink your water, like.
Ooh, I roll. I see.
I can't because it's so like performative, right? Like what drinking water and going to like, don't get me, are those things good and healthy?
Sure.
Absolutely. But that's not going to fix nothing. Did it fix capitalism? Did it fix like racism? Like what? Those are the things that are impacting me right now. Like what did that fix? Oh, thank you. I drank water. My skin looks lovely. I am thankful.
Go deeper, be more real. I love that. Yeah. Okay. What's one societal message that you indirectly or directly received that you now opt out of?
I think it might be the doing.
The doing.
I want to be. I don't want to do.
Be,
I really resisted that one. When I say really resisted, like.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying no for the first time, like you said.
In my entire life. Like, no, it's not in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And then lastly, what is one thing you do to reset your mental state?
Yeah. Lately in this season of life, I have been. I'm laughing at myself because it's exactly what I like joked about we shouldn't do.
What is it?
I have been doing things like drinking my water, going for walks.
What you just said.
Don't like it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But I will say it from this perspective, not because it's like I think what I used to do, it was a checklist of like, well, I'm doing all these things, I should be okay. Now I'm like, no, I want to be still.
Yeah.
I want to garden.
Yeah.
I thought that was so weird before. Like, who gardens? Why? The idea of gardening actually sounds fun.
Yeah.
I want to bake. I love baking. Baking. I'm gonna bake. I want to do things because they make me, like when I think about them, they make me feel peaceful.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing them not because it's a checklist, but because I feel internal peace.
Yeah, like it's no outcome, no output. This is really just about what brings me joy.
Yeah.
What brings me peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Aliya. Thank you so much.
Well,
honestly,
thank you for
like your
having
heart,
me.
your wisdom, you're so real, you're so honest.
Thanks.
And I felt like refreshed and energized listening to you. So thank you.
No, thank you. I'm so happy I got to see you.
Yeah, me
and hang out
too.
with you.
I know, even though it's
You
like
really
this,
are like a little sister to me. I'm so
Same.
protective of you.
What?
I am. Like people when they
What's
try
gonna
to bring you
happen
up,
to me?
I'm like, better not mess with her.
Don't mess with her. Don't ask her to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Thank you for
Don't do
doing that.
that.
Save me from these no's that I have to do. I'm like,
Yeah. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
So much love.